How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting. Welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Yeah, we had a big announcement. I don't know if you noticed. Probably did, but if you haven't, hey, we're saying it again. Found the rooftops. We're starting a new series on Wednesdays, and it's Owakata, which is a highly requested and expected episode. You might be a bit surprised. We've been around a little bit. We had a poll, and it kind of lost. But the problem is that there's something that happened. It got really complicated, and it took a while to verify things, but once I did, I kind of went, you know what, screw it. I need to change things up. I'm not doing what I originally planned, at least not yet. We're jumping right into it, and I'll explain it when I do the video. So if you're like, whoa, I thought we weren't doing that game, I'll explain it at the end of the first episode. Like I'll take time at the very end to chat about it. But yeah, that'll be coming out in 2 days. So if you're watching this and it's like fresh off the presses, and look for episode 1 to come out very, very shortly for Owakata. So I'm very excited about this. Awakana. Actually, it's Awakana, right? Or Aoi, not Aoi, like that's blue. Awakana. Yeah, anyway, enough about that. We're not here for that. We're here for Higarashi. So, we're going into the next chapter. Fascinatingly, some of the stuff that we saw here were like the self-mutilation, torture, and then Satoshi vanishing. I kind of thought when we started this that was going to be the ending. Like, it's obviously not. There's probably a good chunk more of the game. Some people even said we're about halfway or a little over halfway. But when I initially started this, like from the get-go, I thought this was going to be the big climax. So I'm pretty interested. Are we going to see Keiichi move in? And are we going to see Shion's view from her perspective on that? But then it also makes me curious of how many of the events that we see in chapters 1, 2, and 3, like, are going to be shared or verified, because like a lot of them felt very different. But I don't know, like I feel like we're entering established canon territory in the answers chapter. So yeah, I'm really interested to see if like we're going to actually see some of that or what. So I don't know, let's just buckle up. So let's kick back, relax, and enjoy ourselves and see what the story has in store for us today. Let the horror begin, or begin again, I suppose.
今、なんて？
信頼できる筋の噂ですが、サトシ君の叔母殺しの犯人が見つかったらしいです。
Yeah, that's right. That's what makes this so interesting. Okay, because now wouldn't that imply Satoshi could come back? It had been a few weeks since the murder. Satoshi-kun still hadn't been found. I had no new information onto his whereabouts. Kasai's report came in, and as a result, completely out of the blue.
それって、警察が逮捕したって意味？
聞いた話では、逮捕というより、別件で取り調べを受けていた男が余罪として自供したんだとか。
But how? How does that work? I don't get this. This is one of those gaps I remember talking about, like, not, I think I talked about it. I didn't put it on the insanity chart bubble I made for my, like, impressions of Higurashi so far episode. I don't get how this is possible. Like, what is that guy? Like, that was always weird, but, like, it's pretty clear Satoshi's the one who did it. So how'd they get this guy to confess? And why would they go to that trouble? And then why is Satoshi still gone? Like, did he get properly vanished and, like, taken out? Or what? I just don't get it. That sounded strange. If it was Satoshi-kun they arrested, they wouldn't have worded it that way. It sounded as though Satoshi-kun wasn't the culprit.
葛西、結局、犯人って誰だったの？
So it wasn't Satoshi-kun? I swallowed those final words. I was convinced that it was Satoshi-kun. The police and Oishi must have thought the same way. The reason Oishi approached me is because he was convinced that Satoshi-kun did it.
ご安心を。サトシ君ではないようですよ。連続開始事件を模倣した異常者の犯行というような話みたいです。
Okay.
はい？異常者？
Yeah.
何それ？
Kasai shrugged.
さあ、何しろ今回の事件は秘匿捜査指定というものがかかっているんだそうです。
Well, that's convenient.
なので、ほとんど情報が出回らないんです。
秘匿捜査？何それ？
連続開始事件による村への風評被害対策ということらしいです。
So it could be Satoshi then. They just could be saying it's a random lunatic.
誘拐事件なんかでも犯人との交渉が行われている間は新聞に載らなかったりするでしょ。
Okay, he's talking in general. Like he said, you don't see articles about kidnapping while the police are negotiating with the culprit, do you? And I thought he was talking about like the kid that got kidnapped, which maybe technically is true, but still.
ああいう類のものらしいです。
Come to think of it, I hadn't seen anything about my aunt's murder on TV or the newspaper.
何しろ4年連続で綿流しの日に事件が起こっているわけですからね。お社様のたたりだと騒いで面白がる輩も多いそうですし。
Right.
そうそう。何でもそのおば殺しの異常者ですが、連続開始事件を模倣したくて行ったと自供したんだとか。
Yeah, this is stinky. That's the word for it. It stinks. Because I didn't know anything else, so instead of probing him further, I reviewed the information myself. I was really shocked to learn all this. I was convinced that Satoshi-kun killed her. I thought that was the reason he had to disappear. But it was actually some lunatic who killed her, and he had no relation to the aunt whatsoever. So Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with the murder? If so, why did he disappear? I couldn't accept that a lunatic had killed his aunt. I can't either. It doesn't make any sense. And what really is strange is the phrase Kasai used 4 years in a row now. After all, I've been thinking about that this murder happened because Satoshi could have been in a dire situation and had nothing to do with a series of mysterious deaths. I felt as though Satoshi-kun's case had become somebody else's. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is also known as the Curse of Yoshiro-sama. Satoshi-kun's case had become one of those mysterious deaths. In other words, Satoshi-kun's case had become part of Yoshiro-sama's curse. I didn't like the way that sounded. Because I thought it was the curse that swallowed because it was as though the curse had swallowed Satoshi-kun. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't like it either. Like I genuinely, it's so confusing.
例の東京行きの新幹線に乗ったらしいという情報も確認が取れないままです。正直なところ、県の中にいるのか外にいるのか、それすらも分かっちゃいません。
Oishi broke the seal of the new can of instant coffee.
あれだけ胸を張って、サトシ君が犯人だと息巻いていたから、もう行方を掴んでるとばかり思ってました。
I mean, I get why she's here, but it's kind of interesting how much bad blood they've always had, especially because Oishi's basically like always hounding like after the family, but that she like came here to basically be like, all right, look, I know you thought Satoshi-kun did it, so what gives?
いやいや、情けない限りです。
Oh, I clicked early. Oishi chuckled and poured himself a cup of coffee, which looked far too hot.
しかし、耳が早いな。
No, it was kind of obvious from the way you talked and like existed that you thought he was guilty.
はい？
秘匿捜査してだってのに、どこの誰が漏らしてるやら。
I guess he's talking about the murder thing. Yeah, I guess that was a bit of, it is unusual that she knows this.
やれやれ。うちの傍聴も問題があるな。
Oishi smirked. Seemed he knew why I was here today.
まあ、腐ってもその先の端くれですので、多少の噂は耳にできますということで。
I smirked back at him. It's all about bluffing.
まあいいか。腹を割り合った仲ですしね。
Sure, since we're friends.
いいですよ。おしゃべりしましょう。
Ah, yeah, sure.
まず聞かせてください。真犯人って、一体何者です？異常者とか聞きましたけど、それってどういうことですか？
Yeah, it stinks.
どういうことって言われたってね。そりゃ私だって言いたいですよ。私はサトシ君が犯人の一点読みでしたからね。とんだ万馬券が飛び出したもんです。
Right. Oishi threw himself on the sofa and crossed his hands behind his head. He looked up at the ceiling and smiled wryly.
先日ですね、県警の方から急に連絡が来たんですよ。すでに逮捕して取り調べをしている男が主婦殺しを自供したって。
それは何者？
薬に手を出したとんでもない野郎でしてね。出所しては捕まるの繰り返しだそうです。
Okay, so he's a career criminal.
南沢村連続開始事件が面白そうだったんで、4年目のたたりは自分が下してみたくなった。とかなんとか。
So this sounds more like somebody who might have a mental disorder, honestly. There are people who, for whatever reason, will kind of have a respect for people who commit crimes, especially those who get away with it. There are copycatters and all that. So this sounds more like a case of someone who was deranged, maybe had thought that they did this, or when they were high, they had like a hallucination, or they had a dream that felt really real, and they started to talk about it like it was real, and it just provides like an easy scapegoat. But it's just so convenient. It doesn't feel like it could just be random.
間違いなくそいつが犯人？
私が直接話を聞いたわけじゃないんですがね、先方が取った供述調書には、いわゆる犯人しか知り得ない情報ってやつががっつりと含まれていたんですよ。
I mean, if it's possible he could actually have like knowledge specific to the crime. But man, that's weird.
凶器を王子川のどこかで捨てたって言ってましてね。今はドブさらいの最中ですよ。これで供述通りに凶器が発見されれば完璧でしょうな。
たとえ凶器が見つからなくても、おおむね確定？
確定でしょうな。現場の状況と仏の状況を正確に供述しています。
That's really weird. It's like, how could they do that? There's only one person that actually saw the crime scene that wasn't directly related to the police, or two people technically. Satoshi and Dr. Irie. Dr. Irie has some decent information too. It's possible he would be able to prime an individual with the right information to make it sound legitimate, because he could describe the crime scene and the injuries that he saw because he was brought on as the medical examiner. And maybe Irie would be motivated to do this because he wants to help Satoshi and Satoko, because he has a real soft spot for them. If that's the case, that could be a possible explanation there. If Dr. Irie got involved and somehow coordinated with the family to find the scapegoat, the more time goes on, Dr. Irie seems to be more and more involved than I expected. When he was introduced, he was just kind of like this odd character that gave us insight and kind of was on the side for Satoko. But then, with the kidnapped child incident, he was inadvertently the one that helped us help the police find the child. I like how I refer to myself as the police, like I was there. But then, and now here in this story, he honestly is the only person I could think of that might be able to, help fabricate a false confession, because he'd be the one who would have the intimate knowledge necessary to make it sound convincing.
襲った本人にしかわからないような細かいあたりまでね。
納得は言ってないみたいですね。
I mean, yeah, it's fishy. It smells. When something smells, it usually means something's rank. Oishi still looking up at the ceiling, went quiet.
実はね、とっくに亡くなってるんですよ。
What?
うちに連絡があった時にはすでに。
Okay, so he confessed and then died?
亡くなってる？
給食とかに出てくるでしょ。先割れスプーン。
You mean the spork?
留置場の食事にもあれが出てくるんですよ。そいつを飲み込んで窒息したんだとか。
What?
自殺なのか錯乱なのか、ちょっと区別がつかないですがね。
Now, it could have been that, but you know what? It also could have been, I don't know how it would manifest like this, but again, I keep telling you, that serum's got to come back in the story sometime. That thing exists, and we've got to figure out what that is. Maybe that was part of this too. I imagine somebody swallowing a spoon and gagged.
だから十分に納得するまで調べられたわけじゃありません。私は納得できないんですがね。どうもその愉快犯が主婦殺しの犯人ってことで決着しそうな流れです。
That's so weird. Oishi turned his eyes from the ceiling to me. He looked serious.
これは個人的な意見ですよ。他の誰にも内緒ということで。
Sure, because we're friends.
私は この大バカたりは何かの間違いだと思ってます。
Oh, interesting.
何かの偶然による壮大な勘違いか、もしくは、
A plan.
ね
全然意味わかんないですよ、大石のおじさま。
私は今でも犯人は北条聡君だと思っています。
I mean, he's gotta be, right?
きっぱり言い切りますね。
残念ながら現場検証では犯人を特定できるような痕跡は何一つ発見できませんでした。聡君が失踪した後、家宅捜索の許可が下りましてね、家を改めさせてもらいましたが、
それでもサトシ君が犯人だと疑ってる。
I mean, he fits all the other things you need to prove a murder, like opportunity, motive. You just don't have a murder weapon, and he had no alibi, so like basically all they needed really was a physical connection between Satoshi and the crime scene, and it would have been pretty much a done deal.
ねえ。
証拠もないのに、どうやったらそこまで人を殺人犯呼ばわりできるのやら。大したもんです。長年の勘ってやつですか？
ええ。この道で何十年も飯を食ってきた男の直感です。
I mean, that's worth something. At least she smiled in satisfaction, but I didn't feel relieved.
サトシ君はどこへ？
Yeah.
サトシ君が失踪した理由の一つこそが彼が犯人であるからだと固く信じていたんです。サトシ君が犯人でないならそのあたりがかなり薄れちゃいますからね。
I don't know. You'd made it pretty clear you thought he'd committed the murder, and even if he was innocent, if he was convinced that he was going to get blamed for it anyway, he might choose to run. I'm not sure I see Satoshi being the kind of person who would trust the police.
おば殺しの犯人はその愉快犯で、サトシ君の失踪とは無関係。サトシ君失踪は、私とサトシ君の仲を裂くために、園崎本家がやったもの。おば殺しとは無関係。という考え方は？
Was Satoshi-kun a culprit or a victim? The answer is yes. It's just yes. The reason for his disappearance, he had become unclear.
私は旧敵との恋仲程度で人一人を失踪させるなんてリスクを冒すとは思わないんですがね。
I don't know. They seem pretty angry.
実際園崎家の内部としてはどうなんです？シオンさんはそのあたり何かご存知？
I imagine her answer is going to be like, yeah, I don't get invited to stuff anymore. I'm kind of basically a pariah.
知っていたらこんなとこに来ません。
ごもっともごもっとも。
I wish he laughed out loud while scratching his head. And after he stopped laughing, he leaned over.
よーし。なら一つどうですかね。協定を結びませんか。
Oh. Let's hear what this is all about.
紳士協定。
協定？何のです？
サトシ君失踪事件捜査情報共有協定。裏の界隈でサトシ君の失踪に関する情報を得られたら私にも教えてください。もちろん私もサトシ君についての情報が入ったらあなたに提供します。
He's trying to hedge his bets a bit.
いかがです？
なんだか一方的な虫のいい話に思えますけど。
Oh, she chuckled.
シオンさん、このまま行くと主婦殺しの犯人はすでに死んでるその大バカタレってことで確定すると思います。そうなるとサトシ君の扱いは単なる家出人になります。つまり積極的な捜査は打ち切られるということです。
Interesting leverage here. Oh, hey, like if they decide that your boy toy is innocent, then no one's gonna look for him anymore.
ですが私だけは続けます。私だけはサトシ君の行方を引き続き探します。シオンさんも私もサトシ君の行方を探しているという点では一致してると思うんですがね。
Yeah.
目的が全然違いますがね。
Oh, very.
私は単に無事を確認したいだけですが、大石のおじさまにとっては逮捕が目的でしょうから。
Well, it is his job.
主婦殺しが決着すれば、サトシ君は無実ってことになりますよ。真実はどうかは別にしてもね。
Unless you could prove otherwise.
怪しいもんです。
He's laughing, but he's mad. Oishi chuckled again, but his smile didn't reach his eyes.
まあ、今後も仲良くやりましょう。敵の敵は味方とも言いますしね。
Oh yeah, your enemy is your friend. It's right up until you don't have mutual goals anymore.
別に私、園崎本家と敵対しているわけじゃありませんよ。
なあ、本当に？ならそりゃ失礼。
This is the way of Kurado Oishi, huh? As Assistant Kasai said, I wouldn't want him as my enemy or my ally, because both would be too risky. I probably shouldn't let my guard down in front of this big fat weasel. I sipped on the coffee to fill up the silence, though I wasn't thirsty. Outside the window, I could see normal life taking its course. But Satoshi-kun wasn't there. He should have been there, but he wasn't. I was scared that I might grow used to his absence someday. Where was he?
サトシ君はどうしてるんだろう。
I think he's dead, but it would be kind of interesting and almost nice if we find out after like the big disaster in Hinamizawa, he was out there and he was okay. You know, if he is, he actually would probably come back because, you know, he knows his sister's there and he'd be devastated.
無事だといいんですがね。
生きてる可能性は薄いとか思っているくせに。
I mean, don't you?
気休め言わないでほしいです。
サトシ君の失踪、Hinamizawaじゃなんて言われてるか知ってます？
The vanish.
え？
鬼隠しにあった、なんて言われてるんだとか。
To be demoned away means the same thing as being spirited away. It's part of the local dialect.
鬼が淵沼の底の鬼の国にさらわれたって？バカバカしい。
とにもかくにも連続開始事件もこれで4年目です。気の早い話ですがね、来年もまた起こるんじゃないかなんて、もう囁かれてるんだとか。
I mean, we are too. That's where our investment comes into play.
大場殺しがお社様のたたりのせいだって言うんですか？
全体的に見てみれば仏も北条家の一人。ダム戦争の戦犯と縁がないわけじゃないですからね。しかもまたしても綿流しの日にとなれば面白がる連中が現れるのも無理もないことです。
As if it's planned, as if it's orchestrated, as if it's intentional.
バカバカしい。何がお社様のたたりだ。
Though I said that, I couldn't quite wipe away the fear from my mind. Why did Satoshi-kun disappear? Was it the Sonozaki family? Did he run away from the police? Did he really kill his aunt in the first place? Why did he even disappear? He's on his own. Oyashiro-sama's curse has nothing to do with it. But, that's strange. Satoshi-kun and Oyashiro-sama's curse. Somebody once mentioned those two together before. Rena. When did I hear that? Rena. Ah, that's right. That rainy day. When Rena Ryugo told me that when we were taking shelter in that shack. I remembered the creepy story that she told me that at the time.
サトシ君は心のどこかでHinamizawaを捨ててどこかへ逃げ出したいと思ってるから。
That's what Rena Ryugu said. Rena had definitely pointed out Satoshi-kun wanted to leave Hinamizawa at that time. She also said,
サトシ君が体験していることはすべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。
and she heard the footsteps. The footsteps that either are like a curse or very, very skilled trackers and like surveillance. She said that for sure. She had definitely mentioned Oyashiro-sama's curse. A series of mysterious deaths had struck 4 times. Was Satoshi-kun being controlled by the curse? Is that why he killed his aunt and it was demoned away? No way. That can't be true. Satoshi-kun's 'n' smile faded away in my mind. Satoshi-kun disappeared. Not only that, the reason for his disappearance also disappeared. It must have been done by human beings. I can't accept that he was demoned away. Notebook, page 43. I think so too. I'm definitely still very strongly on the whole, this is humans, not demoning or not a curse. But like, there's still those answers I couldn't find any even partial explanation for. So there's something. I need more information. I moved from one chair to another because the air conditioning was too cold. I moved with my notebook, my pen case, and a bunch of keychains and my cup of milk tea. I did it all in one go. I sat down in a new chair, then opened my notebook again, scribbled my thoughts, and sank into silence. The series of mysterious deaths, dubbed The Curse of Orishiro-sama. I've been viewing each incident as a separate case, even though it was followed one by another one. I never looked at all the cases as part of one big scheme. After I wrote down all the incidents on paper, it became clear to me all of them served the same agenda. I wrote down the victims. The first year, the construction site manager. The second year, Satoshi-kun's parents. Third year, the priest. Fourth year, Satoshi-kun's aunt. For the fourth year, one could consider Satoshi-kun himself to be the victim rather than his aunt. If I considered that each case arose from the grudge over the dam conflict, it's quite simple. In the first year, the construction manager was killed because he was a symbol of the dam construction itself. Of course, the real enemy was the Minister of Construction, but it wasn't as clear a target. That manager, on the other hand, had been aggressively shouted back at the villagers. He was much more appropriate an enemy to attack. And they did go for the minister, obviously. They went through him the other ways. If Orishiro-sama had really cursed somebody, it would have been the officials from the ministry. But it's apparent the target was selected based on the villagers' preferences. That's an interesting... she's making good arguments here. The second year. The accidental death of the Satoshi-kun's parents. It's said that they fell from a cliff in some park, but it's doubtful that was really an accident. His parents were labeled as traitors to the village because they sided with the dam construction, even though they were also from Hinamizawa. The Hojo family was ostracized during the dam conflict in order to prevent further pro-dam activists from rising up. That means that the Hojos were necessary during the conflict to play the role of the traitor. So when the conflict was over, they were no longer served any purpose. The construction site manager was a symbol of the external enemy. The Hojos were a symbol of the internal enemy. Those people fell victim to the curse, and it seems the grudge over the dam conflict had ended. Yet those incidents were followed by another one. The third year. The leader of one of the three families, the priest Furude, suddenly died of an illness with an unknown cause. His wife drowned herself in the same night. She seemed to have left a note that said she was sacrificing herself to pacify Orishiro-sama's anger. Whether it was the fatal disease or suicide, the deaths looked suspicious. Mion admitted that the Sonozaki family didn't like the priest's attitude. They didn't like how the priest had been generous toward the pro-dam activists. The priest wasn't quite the traitor, but he was certainly uncooperative. Looking at these incidents, I realized that the curse was performed based on the degree of hostility. Also, I kind of want to point out something here that's kind of weird, because I think she's about to bring it up, and I think I've talked about it before as well. But again, it's all, if you think of it as like kind of retaliatory consolidation of power. Like maybe up until now, the Sonozakis have been doing a lot of like getting power in the main, like in the surface world, you know, through like the Yakuza type of stuff. But maybe they felt like they were losing their grip on Hinamizawa, which like was far more important to them than controlling the prefecture, I guess. So they orchestrate this entire plan, eliminating people who are problematic and public enough to kind of make it clear that like they were enemies, right? But at the same time are also consolidating power for the Sonozakis, because if you think about it here, who are the victims? First victim, dam construction guy. That's easy, because that gets everyone on board, and basically is people cheering for these murders to occur. And then vanishing one of the guys that was part of the murder. Like, I don't know how intentional that was, but it probably was intentional, because I feel like all of it must have been. Second, that's Satoshi's parents, the Hojos. So obviously, enemy from within. That's a great idea of doing it, and they were just kind of like the best target for enemy from within. Again, a death that maybe wasn't met with like universal cheers for Hinamizawa, but 90% of the people probably were more than happy with them being gone. Then the priest. That's where I start feeling like the moves are very political. Where it's like, look, he's not cooperating. We can now that people are talking about the curse and like kind of giving it some actual teeth, we can go after more controversial targets, like the priest of Oyashiro-sama. Oh man, he got taken out. Instead of it being like, how could anyone do this? It's more of a, wow, he must have really messed up to be able to become the next target. And then you have the follow through with now Satoshi and his aunt, which again I'm thinking is just basically to kind of course correct, to stop making like a too clear of a pattern, to make it feel more like the curse. That's kind of what I'm going for, the vibe. So it's about consolidating power, kind of making sure that the town gets united behind the Sonozakis. They eliminate the priest, who's one of the three families, and then like I wouldn't be surprised if the mayor ended up being taken out eventually as well. In fact, a couple times he was. So then who's left? It's just, of the three families, it's just the Sonozakis, and they're just, kings of a powerful family Yakuza pack, and they control Hinamizawa entirely. I mean, the motivation feels very, very realistic. Anyway, continuing. Enemy, traitor, and dissident. This meant that the curse was actually payment. It was a punishment for the criminals of war. Oh, look at that. It was meant that the curse was actually payment, just like the payment of her having to remove her fingernails. That's the pattern she's pointing out here. Okay, that's a really good way to look at it too. And the fourth year, I didn't understand this case at first, to be honest. At first, I believed the case was separate from the other ones, even though it occurred on the same day. I never thought that there would be any relation between the other three. But when I wrote it down and looked at it objectively, the victim of is the relative of a traitor. After enemy, traitor, and dissident, relative of traitor doesn't sound too odd. It comes naturally as the fourth target. On the day the villagers worship Oyashiro-sama, the guardian deity of the criminals of the dam conflict have been punished by the curse. Just like how I was forced to play at the Sonozaki house, the criminals were made to pay as well. After writing these things out, I started thinking that the fourth incident might be in line with the series of mysterious deaths after all. Whether it was Satoshi-kun or the dopehead, it seemed that they were forced to play the role of a murderer as part of a bigger scenario. Yeah, think about that too. The targets as well. Like, what's the message that they send? First, enemies of the village will be destroyed. Next message. Traitors within the village will be destroyed. Third, dissenters who question and who try to change the course of the village will be destroyed. And then fourth, people who were innocent but were related to traitors will be destroyed. So it's like it's about locking down control. It's making it scarier and scarier. Now people are less likely to coordinate with police. They're less likely to cooperate with outside forces because they'll be terrified, like Rena, that they'll be next. Even if Satoshi-kun was the real culprit, even if he killed his aunt because of an ordinary grudge, the murder seems synchronized with the grand scheme of the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, which is the payment plan for these war criminals. That murder was the result of his pain. But what if somebody planned this as part of a scenario? For instance, somebody might have suggested to him to kill his aunt on that day, that night, at that place. Excuse me. I had no doubts that Satoshi-kun decided to kill her in order to protect Satoko. But did he really reach that conclusion on his own? Oh, interesting. Because that's another thing about too. When Keiichi made the decision in chapter 3, did he make that decision on his own? Or was he influenced? Were there whispers in the dark, maybe while he slept, planting ideas in his head? That's some pretty bold manipulation. But it definitely felt odd how he kind of just came to the realization that murder's actually pretty easy, you know? You just gotta get a bat and give it a good swing. You know, that seemed oddly, like, sudden. So maybe there is something to this. Satoshi-kun was optimistic and somewhat detached as far as I know. Would he really have considered murdering his aunt, even if it was to protect his sister? Could it be possible for somebody to have chosen the aunt as the fourth year's murder beforehand? and they used Satoshi-kun. And Satoshi-kun was eliminated because of his connection with them. Oh, that's interesting. Hang on. That's a perspective I hadn't considered. What if the vanishing is about the person who pushes? The person behind the scenes who's manipulating people into making these decisions. It's a cover-up, but specifically to cover up that connection. Oh, wait a minute. Could all the murders have actually been perpetrated by the person who got vanished? Could that be the pattern too? Because think about it, the dam construction site, one of the people who dismembered the body, likely who was like the motivator, was the one that vanished to prevent the connection to whoever kind of gave them the idea. Murder 2, Satoko's parents. Husband dies, wife goes away. What if the wife had a reason to be upset at him? What if he was cheating or doing something else that just really like kind of pushed her over the edge, or like got her close to the edge and someone gave her a little nudge and she pushes him off the cliff? Because I always talked about how like it felt like that the railing had maybe been sabotaged or something. She pushes him off and then she gets spirited away because someone says, oh, don't worry, I'll protect you. And then she just gets eliminated instead, so she can't tie them back to whoever's doing the original whispering. Then the husband and wife at the shrine, Furude Shrine, it's fairly it really feels like he was poisoned. And then she threw herself in the swamp. Well, that letter probably was fake. We've seen forged letters in chapter 1, or at the very least manipulated letters in order to match a narrative that they wanted to send. So could she have poisoned him, maybe on purpose or by accident? It's very possible. Like maybe this person said, oh, I found this really nice new tea. I think you'll love it. Make it for your husband when he's feeling sick. So he gets a little sick. She makes him the tea and he dies. And she's distraught. And they say, don't worry, we'll help you. Let's go somewhere like quiet. And then she's gone. She's gone. So the reason why is because there's somebody, probably somebody unobtrusive, somebody who looks innocent. So not Oryu, because she's like indirect, right? So she makes the whisper. It would be really nice if we eliminated these people. And wouldn't it be wonderful if Oishiro, so Oryu says something like, if only these people, like 5 years ago during the dam conflict, she says, if only if they left. Perhaps if I pray really hard to Oishiro, he'll hear our pleas on Watanagashi and make them disappear in his name. Basically spelling out the plan, right? But who is it that heard that and executes it? Who could be getting in people's heads? And here's another thought I'm giving, right? Part of me was really paranoid and wondered if it could be Rika, but that doesn't make sense because she knew the murders were going to happen, but didn't want them to happen. Unless she's just being completely like two-faced. That's possible, but here's another thing. Didn't I just say that Dr. Irie seems to be a lot more connected to things than I was expecting, right? And in the chapter where Keiichi gets the impression and makes the decision to murder like the uncle, that's the chapter where we meet Dr. Irie. So what if Dr. Irie was working behind the scenes in the other murders as well? And another possibility, what if the original murder of the dam construction crew guy who got away and never got caught, what if he was the person who then later helps inspire the rest of these murders too? Could Dr. Irie have been the one who initiated that and he got away and never got caught? Instead of being demoned away, he just started the cycle, or like became the tool of executing everybody. He's looking to me like the whispering voice that could be behind most of this, because he's also involved in the school and in town. He could be talking to Rena. He could have been talking to Mion. He talked to Keiichi. He might be the through line that we were missing, because we don't know how involved he was in chapters 1 and 2, because he hadn't really been introduced yet. Okay. Alright. My current running theory is Dr. Irie's more involved than I thought. He comes across as this really nice guy, but maybe he understands how to plant ideas in people's heads. And he kind of knows how to push people psychologically in the right direction. Maybe. I don't know. Don't follow this as a solid theory, but I there's something to it. Looking at it that way, the murder of the first year resembles this case. The main culprit behind the case hasn't been found yet. Dead or alive. The other culprits testified that their fight had turned into a slaughter. But wouldn't it be possible that the main culprit had manipulated the situation? What if he had been told to kill someone on that day, at the time, and in that place? I'm certain. The first murder resembles Satoshi-kun's case very much. That also would kind of play into that serum thing, where maybe like a smaller dose of the serum could just push people over the edge rather than making them go completely insane. So that, oh my gosh, Dr. Irie's a doctor. What if he just makes the serum? He's intelligent enough, he might be able to do that. Holy crap. That's, oh, okay. I might have something solid here, actually. So that means Satoshi-kun was being controlled by somebody else. Oishi had presented me with a hypothesis that the Sonozaki family made Satoshi-kun disappear in order to end my relationship with a murderer. But when I read the notes I wrote down, his disappearance didn't seem too spontaneous. It seemed like part of a bigger plan. Since I'd unexpectedly gotten involved in that plan, I had to be separated from him. Then Satoshi-kun was demoned away as planned. At first, I also believed that the Sonozaki family made him disappear because they didn't like that I was in love with a member of a family of traitors. But something didn't add up. Something felt strange. I wasn't the reason for his disappearance after all. Even if I never met him in the first place, Satoshi-kun was supposed to kill his aunt in June 1982 and then disappear. At one point, I'd been thinking of taking revenge on the hag. I'd believed that she'd separated us. But what if my relationship with Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with his disappearance? What would that mean? Who made Satoshi-kun disappear? I needed to understand a series of mysterious deaths in order to solve this mystery. What did all these deaths mean? Who was behind them, and what purpose did they serve? I wanted to know the purpose, the motive, and who was responsible. Who took Satoshi-kun? I wanted to know if he was still alive. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is also called Oyashiro-sama's curse. What is that curse? Specifically, what kind of god is Oyashiro-sama? What blessing does he bring and what punishment does he dole out? I wrote down my thoughts in the notebook. What's Oyashiro-sama? What is he? I scribbled these things down. I was so absorbed by it that I didn't realize somebody had been standing behind me watching me the whole time. I couldn't stop myself from gasping when I realized that. Oh my gosh, it's you! You. Why are you here? And you know a lot about the stories of Oyashiro-sama too, but you get vanished. You get manipulated into... If you get manipulated in most of the chapters, then for the night of Watanagashi and Tomitaka-kun, his death is probably the most canonized one. And she likely was the one that killed him and gets vanished. But then we had the weird thing with her where she seemed to have died before the Watanagashi festival, yet she was somehow there. What was that about, too? How does that work? Oh my gosh, what the fetch is happening?
驚かせちゃったかしら?
I want to see it real quick. Okay, so she does have a different eye. I don't know if I've taken the time to look at it. I think I've always been caught up in stuff. Ah, there she goes. Oh, interesting that like the cross symbol is like it's missing from this one. The intelligent-looking woman giggled.
いえ、びっくりしただけです。こちらこそ場違いな大声を出してすみませんでした。
She could have apologized a little better too, since she'd been watching me from behind. But she just stared at my face instead.
あなたが園崎シオンさん?
How do you know her name?
私の名前を知ってて、私が初対面ということは、 お姉の知り合いか何かですか？
Being twins is a pain sometimes. People you've never met can tell exactly who you are.
ごめんなさいね。私の知っている園崎さんは図書館なんかに来るような人じゃないから。噂に聞いた双子のシオンさんかなと思って。
But until recently, no one knew she existed. How do you know? The woman giggled again.
お察しの通り、私は園崎シオンです。どうもはじめまして。失礼ですがどちら様ですか？
あら、ごめんなさいね。自己紹介がまだだったわね。
She seemed to love her own hair because she kept running her fingers through it boastfully.
高野美代。美代って呼んでくれていいわよ。シオンちゃん。
お気遣いありがとうございます。高野さん。
Specifically, Takano-san. Her condescending attitude bugged me. I hate being people like that. I closed my notebook and got ready to leave the desk.
あら、怒ってる？
ご検察、痛み入ります。私は一人で考え事をするのが好きなんで、よそへ行かせていただきます。
Right.
失礼します。ごきげんよう。
残念ね。私たち、話が合うと思ったのに。
そうですか？私は会うとは思いかねますが。
だって、お社様のたたりについて研究する同志に出会えたんですもの。
It's like the perfect trap.
貴重な出会いだと思うんだけど。
She saw my notes. My face reddened.
これは、私の、そう、妄想みたいなもの。でたらめです。子供の落書きなんかほっといてください。
お社様のたたりと呼ばれる一連の連続開始事件。
You are rather nosy, aren't you?
いずれの事件も個別に見えながら、確実に一つの意思に基づいて行われている。毎年、一人がお社様のたたりにあって死に、
何を急に言い出すんですか？一人がたたりで死んで、一人が、何ですって？
Sacrificed. That implies the ritual sacrifice, right? I was taken aback by her weird spiel, but I realized right away that she'd said something extraordinary.
南沢村連続開始事件の犠牲者が常に偶数人数だってことはあなたも気づいてたんじゃない？それともまだそこまでには至ってなかったかしら？
And then that's the other thing too. She said, someone dies of a curse and someone else is sacrificed and disappears. Sacrificed and disappears. Now, I initially thought like sacrifices in like the ceremonial like sacrifice, right? Like on an altar, heart ripped out, kalima type thing. But what if sacrifice means sacrifice for the greater good? Sacrifice is in like put up as the fall person or the person who's going to commit the heinous act that's involved in the murder of Watanagashi. That could be different. Okay. The number of victims is always even. I was confused, but I tried to figure out what that meant. The dam construction site manager died in the first year. There was only one victim. In the second year, the victims were parents of Satoshi-kun, and there was 2 people. In the third year was the priest, and if her death was also planned, his wife, 2 again. And then this year, the 4th year, Satoshi-kun's aunt died and Satoshi-kun went missing. If Satoshi-kun's disappearance was planned, the number of victims was 2. It's true. Except for the first one. The victims always came in an even number 2. Wait. I just concluded myself that the first case resembled the 4th one. The main culprit was still missing. He might have been demoned away just like Satoshi-kun.
ね、そうでしょ？
Takano-san sounded like a teacher. It showed me how to solve a difficult math problem. I wasn't quite convinced, but I couldn't deny what she said either.
ヒントはこのくらいでいいかしら？二人で存分に語り明かしたかったんだけど、あなたが孤独を好むなら仕方がないしね。
Did I give you enough hints?
失礼な口の聞き方をしてすみませんでした、ミオさん。私のことはシオンと呼んでください。
Oh, now the charm's coming on. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mion. Please don't go away. I want you to talk to me about this because I really want to know. She seemed content that I changed my attitude and kept giggling for a while. She didn't seem that reliable. I didn't want to be acquainted with her for too long. But I don't get to talk to people very much, and what she said interested me.
改めて自己紹介するわね。高野美代よ。美代って呼んでくれると嬉しいわ。
よろしくです、ミオさん。私は園崎シオン。ミオンの双子の妹にあたります。シオンと呼んでください。
I took the hand that Mio held out as a sign of reconciliation.
さっきの話を聞かせてください。二人犠牲者が出ると言いましたね。一人がたたりで、もう一人が、生贄とか。
ね
I
え、
clicked early, I'm
シオン
sorry.
ちゃん、このお話で盛り上がる前に、どうしてこの話に興味があるか聞かせてもらってもいいかしら。
She leaned over and looked into my eyes. It was kind of uncomfortable.
ミオさんこそ、私のことをどこまでご存知です？ご存知なら、おおよその見当はつくんじゃないかと。
さあ、何年か遠くの全寮制の学校にいて、最近沖宮に戻ってきたとしか知らないわよ。
そうですか。じゃあ想像つきますよね。私がいない間に起こった連続開始事件。私はよくわからないので調べてるんです。ちょっとした興味本位で。
なるほどね。興味本位で、ね。
Takano's definitely like more heavily involved than I was even like giving her credit for, and I was always weirded out by her. There's more to you too. But the fact is you're one of the victims later, so why are you involved? I get the impression that she knew about what had happened to Satoshi-kun and me, because she instantly recognized me as Shion, not Mion. I didn't know why I thought that way, and she shouldn't have access to the sources like that, for instance, Oishi does. It was just the look in her eyes that made me think that way.
ミオさんにも聞きます。さっき私のことを、お社様のたたりについて調べる同志と言いましたね。なぜたたりなんか研究してるんですか？そして、連続開始事件の犠牲者は偶数人であることも言い切りましたね。Hinamizawa連続開始事件は、確かに通称で、お社様のたたりと呼ばれています。
Yeah.
なぜたたりを研究すると、連続開始事件にまで踏み込むことになるのですか？
シオンちゃん、質問が一度に多すぎるわね。
Yep, one at a time.
それに何が聞きたいのか、ややこしくて分かりにくいわ。
Oh, I couldn't say anything in return. Maybe I'd been too inquisitive?
順に答えるわね。私が研究しているのはたたりじゃなく、もっと講義。鬼ヶ淵村の風俗詩よ。
Oh, okay.
平たく言えば、古代南沢村の知られざる歴史、暗黒史について研究しているの。
鬼ヶ淵村？鬼ヶ淵って、鬼の国につながってるっていう、村の奥にある底なし沼のことですか？あと、知られざる歴史、暗黒史って何です？
Wait, Shion, you really don't know? I kept asking questions. Mio-san, however, looked pleased to hear them.
鬼ヶ淵村というのは、南沢村の明治以前の名前よ。暗黒史というのは、人食い鬼の歴史は。
The man-eating demons, huh? That was a fairy tale told in Hinamizawa. A long time ago, demons came out of the swamp, and while the villagers battled with them, they ended up living peacefully together. The villagers transcended and became the sacred people, having demon blood in their veins. The long-forgotten fairy tale came back to my mind vividly.
南沢に縁のある人なら、誰もが知ってる当たり前の昔話よね。では、その半人半鬼の仙人たちが、時に山を降り、人をさらって食らった宴の話は知っている？
何の話ですか？
村人たちの体に半分流れる鬼の血は、鬼は鬼でも人食い鬼の血だったって話は聞いたことない？
ああ、まあそんな話もありますね。
I dodged the question. Hinamizawa used to be a desolate village, but grew in prominence after the Second World War, and expanded its influence to Okonomiya and other areas. The people who disliked or discriminated against the villagers called us man-eating demons, I remember that. The young villagers don't take it seriously, but the older people can get seriously upset about it. They certainly can't take it as a joke. So the term man-eating demon is forbidden. We normally never use it. Even during my rebellious phase, I never spoke the words. Mio, however, seemed to have no qualms with saying it out loud.
気に障った？
何がですか？
人食い鬼って単語を意味嫌う村人は多いからね。
It's basically a swear word there.
気に障ったなら謝るけれど。
年寄り連中は気にするらしいですけど、まあ私はそんなには気にしてませんので、それより続けてください。
ありがとう。じゃあ続けるわね。古代の村人たちにはね、人を喰らう食人の習慣があったらしいの。そしてその食人の儀式を様式化し、さまざまなセレモニーや文化、風習を生み出したと言われている。
Yeah.
私たちが6月のお祭りだと思っている綿流しだって、本来は犠牲者をさらい食べるために行う食人の宴だった。彼らはね、犠牲者を高速台に縛り付け、お魚をおろす時みたいに腹綿を引きずり出してそれを川に投げ捨てたとされている。ほら、魚の腹綿って綿って言うじゃない。それが語源よ。綿流しの。
The flushing of the guts, the organs.
綿流し。
そうよ。お布団の綿なんかでごまかすようになったのは、私の研究では明治の頃からじゃないかと思うわね。まさかこの昭和の時代にそんな恐ろしいことが堂々とできるわけもないのだし。
Yeah, everything Mio said, was talking about sounded startling. I was just taken aback. I couldn't wholly believe it right away. She sensed that from my expression.
もちろん、思いつきなでっち上げなんかでは断じてない。誰にも見せないって誓うなら、綿流しのあたりの研究ノートを見せてあげてもいいけれど。
Yeah. Mio-san took out a notebook from her bag and flipped through it. She appeared to be doing her research thoroughly.
ありがとうございます。お借りできるものなら、後でゆっくり読んでみたいと思います。
ええ、本当は閲覧厳禁の秘密ノートだけれどね。研究の同志になら特別に見せてあげてもいいわね。
Why? Mio-san handed me the notebook a bit hesitantly. It looked like it'd taken a whole night to finish. It'd taken a whole night to finish reading. It was densely packed with information. I saw copies of various documents and quotes in there too. It wasn't just some delusion of hers.
一番最初にミオさんは言いましたよね。毎年の事件で、一人がたたりで死に、一人が生贄にされて失踪すると。
A person is sacrificed and disappears. Satoshi-kun had gone missing. Did he become a sacrifice? What is a sacrifice anyway? Mio-san looked pleased to hear my question again. She took out another notebook and handed it to me.
読めばわかるけど、かいつまんで話すわね。お社様のたたりとは、簡単に言えば、お社様の怒りのこと。お社様が怒ったら、罰としてたたりが起こる。それはわかるわよね。
He's caught by his anger. Again, part of me like, so the serum, I think it's all tied to the serum. So Oishiro-sama was basically a guardian of the valley who helped unite the demons and the humans at the time. But he gets angry when people threaten that peace or become enemies of the village, kind of a thing. If the demoning is related to some natural thing in the forest, like I've said for a while now, like maybe it's like a mushroom in the area or something, but maybe it gives people like the spikes of aggression, and these spikes of aggression turn into like hunts and murders and stuff, and so they call it the demon blood. And instead of like punishing those people, they revered them. You know, that throughout time, it just kind of was like occasional, like, oh, we're doing a hunt now because, like, I don't know, the spores spread, and now we're all really upset and, like, hunting people. But then down the line, they kind of realize what was actually going on, and they start manipulating it to do things, like, under their own power.
一応わかります。ダム戦争で、村に敵対した人間たちにお社様が怒り、たたりが起こったと。
そうね。でね、お社様のたたりというのは、放置してはいけないの。もっともっと大きなたたりを招くからね。
Oishiro-sama's anger has to be pacified if not something even worse will occur. That's interesting, because that implies the whole gassing thing. So, is that part of the... Well, I don't know, though, because, like, that seems definitely not wrong. Like, if you're trying to argue, like, the curse angle, then that doesn't seem right, because we see with the third chapter, where we see the disaster, the gas disaster happen, right? We saw that her aunt, like Satoko's aunt gets or uncle got killed, or he was supposed to get killed, but then he wasn't dead. But I don't know how that's supposed to have worked. And then Rika was like clearly like ritually sacrificed, but then the whole thing happened anyway. Huh. I don't know, man.
だから神職であるフルデ家の歴代当主たちはお社様のたたりがあるたびにそのお怒りを鎮めるために生贄を捧げる必要があったの。それを生贄の儀と呼ぶみたいなんだけどね。
じゃあつまり毎年綿流しの日にお社様のたたりで一人死んで、そのたたりを鎮めるためにさらにもう一人を生贄にして殺してると、そう言うんですか？でも一人しか死んでませんよ、現実に。
Yeah, only one person's murdered, the other one's sacrificed. There is a difference, even though it's like kind of end result the same.
生贄に捧げられたなんて聞いたこともない。
死体が出ないのは当然よ。だって生贄の儀式は犠牲者を鬼ヶ淵の沼に沈めることなんだもの。あの沼は一度沈めば二度と浮き上がることはないと言われる底なしの沼。死体なんて出ようはずもない。
じゃあ毎年のもう一人の犠牲者はみんな沼の底に沈んでると。
Does that mean Satoshi-kun's also at the bottom of that dark green swamp?
さあ、本当に沼の底に沈められているかはわからないわ。でも連続事件を起こしている人たちがそれを意識して一人を消していることは間違いないと思うわね。
It's also odd that, right? Like the pitch that she's making here is that Oyashiro-sama's curse, his anger, strikes somebody and that person gets murdered. And then in order to quell the anger, they also have to kill another person. Why would Oyashiro-sama be angry that somebody died that he was angry with, right? It's almost more like when a murder occurs, because it disrupts the peace of the valley, Oyashiro-sama gets mad, and his might, his curse, the anger, it might be what the gas thing that kills everybody, right? So they pacify him by making a sacrifice. But again, why would a sacrifice work if he wasn't a bloodthirsty god? I don't know. I thought I was onto something there, but now I've just talked myself right back in the same place. Each year, the trader of the village dies on the day of Watanagashi because of Oyashiro-sama's curse. And another person is sacrificed in order to pacify Oyashiro-sama's anger. That person's body will never be found because he or she is supposedly thrown into the bottomless swamp.
そう。つまり、Hinamizawa村連続開始事件というのは、たたりとそれを鎮めるための生贄の2つでセットになったもの。そして、それを毎年繰り返すことによって、ダム戦争時の旧敵を毎年2人ずつ殺していけるシステムのことを指しているの。
I guess I would want to see, like, it might be boring, but like I would want to know historically before like the more modern interpretations that we're seeing, how often did this ritual happen? Like, was there, if there was a murder in town, would they perform this ritual like only then? Or was it something that they actually did every Watanagashi? I don't know. It hasn't been super clear on that fact.
私の話は省略しすぎてるからね。多分ちょっと信じがたいとは思う。だからこそあなたに預けた研究ノートをね、内容を理解できたなら私の話がそういい加減なものでもないことがわかるはず。
If we actually get to have a good deep dive into her notes, that's going to be really cool. I heard the man's voice just then. A middle-aged man with a hat was waving at Mio-san from the entrance.
ごめんなさい。待ち人が来たみたい。
Is that victim number 5?
もっとゆっくり話がしたかったのに。でも、機会はまだこれからもあるでしょうしね。そのノートはそれまで預けておくわね。
Dang, that's really odd considering how much you seem to treasure them.
中身をよく読んで理解できたなら、私のいい話し相手になってくれるのを楽しみにしているわね。
Oh, I clicked, sorry. Mio-san wrapped up the conversation and headed to where the man was waiting for her. She left the old notebook in my hands. Mio-san waved at me as she left the library with her companion. I took the seat again and opened what she'd given me. What bugged me was a series of mysterious deaths, also known as the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Maybe I'd be able to get closer to the truth by reading these notebooks. If I studied them carefully, I might be able to find out who was really behind the incidents. Why did Satoshi-kun have to disappear? What was he involved in? How did this happen? Maybe Takano-san's notes would bring me the answer. Research notes, Mio Takano. I started flipping the pages, this time making sure no one was watching over my shoulder. Oh, man. It was time for the library to close, and I had to leave. I bought some food on my way home. I shut my door and locked it right away. Then I heard the door of the neighbor's apartment open. Kasai lived next door. Nobody else lived on this floor in the nearby empty apartment building anyway. I clearly heard the door open and close. Kasai must have noticed I came home and was coming over because he wanted to talk to me. I unlocked the door and shouted at him.
カサイなの？鍵は開いてますよ。カサイさんじゃないよ。シオン。
Oh. Well, this is gonna be awkward. That voice. I twitched.
入るよ。どうぞ、おね。
The door slowly opened. And my alter ego Mion Sonozaki appeared. She was holding a box of cake, smiling timidly.
どうぞ上がってって言うまで玄関に突っ立ってるつもりですか？どうぞ上がって。全然可愛くない部屋で申し訳ないけどね。落ち着いた雰囲気のとこだね。
She just looked a bit tense when entering my room. It was her first time here.
生活はどう？新しい学校はやっぱりつまらないです。一応通ってはいますけど、気分が乗らないときはサボらせてもらってます。全寮制だとなかなかそうはいかないですからね。センルチはやっぱり辛かったか。お姉も一度閉じ込められてみろってんです。ごめん。ケーキ買ってきたからさ、食べよ。
Mion opened the box. I saw 2 cheesecakes in there. We had the same taste in food. So if we don't have to fight over who gets the two, if you get 2 of the same thing. Yeah, that's definitely a good twin technique. I chatted with her over the cheesecake. I talked to her about school and whatnot.
必要な家具とかがあったら言ってね。融通できるかもしれないから。この部屋にもようやく馴染んできたとこだけど、近いうちに引き払うかもしれないから、家具はノーサンキューです。
Why would you move?
うちのお父さんが、沖宮に住むつもりなら戻ってこいってうるさいんですよ。お父さんに会いたくないんだけど、かといって逆らうのも怖いしな。お父さんも、シオンがいなくなって寂しそうだったから、なんだかんだ言っても帰ってきたら喜ぶと思うよ。人事だと思って。
Come to think of it, this was the first time I talked to Siswa since I was allowed to live as Shion Sonozaki. She didn't look like how she was at the Sonozaki house that day. The successor of the Sonozaki family and my twin sister are 2 different people. The demon lives inside the leader of the Sonozakis. Our bodies are exactly the same except for the tattoo of a demon on her back. Mion's destiny as the successor was set in stone when she got that tattoo. It's pretty simple. The Mion from that night was different from the Mion before me. Do we ever get to see that tattoo? They've talked about it. I mean, I guess maybe not, because it's probably very private. It's like on her back, and it's probably like Yakuza style, like massive, but like interesting. Especially because she's freaking young to get that. When I was forced to tear off my fingernails, I'd momentarily despised her. But if I were the next leader of the family, I'd have done the same.
シオン、爪は治った？もうすっかり傷口は塞がったからね。最近は目立つのがかえって嫌なんで、包帯みたいなのもしてないです。でもまだだいぶいびつでね。あまり人には見せられないかな。
I sneered at her, displaying my incomplete fingernails. Mion grew quiet and looked down.
謝らなくていいよ。ミオンだって、あそこは仕方なかったんだからさ。次期当主の役割を演じただけ。
Yeah. Interesting that it does seem to affect Mion, but she still did it.
恨んじゃいないから。ごめんね。オッケー。その謝罪で私は全部チャラにした。でも、もう一度謝ったらそれは取り消し。
Dang. People need to tell me that.
一生許さないよ。何それ。 お姉は一度謝りモードに入るとなかなか抜けられない悪い癖がありますからね。
True. It takes a while to get her to actually like start apologizing. So once you do, it's like you're like she'll never stop.
私の方で区切らないとキリがないんです。本当に許してくれるの？サトシとのことも。
My heart ached as she mentioned his name. It just felt like the ache of an old wound.
シオンがサトシのことを好きなのは、あれだけ大勢の前で熱愛宣言しちゃいましたからね。なんだか今更恥ずかしくもなんともないや。でも、バッチャはあれで本当にけじめがついたと思ってるんだよ。
I hope so.
シオンがちゃんと自分でけじめをつけてみせたから、それで全部終わりって。
Why do I not believe that?
そうでなきゃ困ります。あれだけ痛い思いしたんですから。サトシ、どこに行ったんだろうね。
I started choking when I heard her say that. I just said it to her myself. I said that I'd forgive her completely, but that promise instantly evaporated. Just because of what she said. I felt like I turned into a completely different person. Because she didn't say, like she said he disappeared too. What did you just say, Mion? Did you just say, I wonder where Satoshi-kun disappeared too? Who else could know other than you and your folks? What did you say? Where did he go? I felt my eyeballs reddening in anger. Felt as though they were about to pop. I choked on the burning sensation in my throat. Mion's expression rapidly changed. It looked like she'd noticed the devil's mask on my face. We were one and the same. We could understand each other's thoughts without voicing them. So showing our expressions was like unveiling everything in our hearts to the other.
ごめん。
Even though I told her not to apologize anymore, Mion apologized. Felt like it's strangling her. I was going to make her confess when she hid Satoshi-kun. If she told me she threw him in the Onagafuji swamp, I'd strangle her to death right then and there.
サトシのことは本当に知らないの。
That's a lie.
本当。バッチャだって何も知らない。本当なの。
Are we actually choking her?
嘘だ嘘だ嘘だ。じゃあ本当にお社様のたたりで鬼隠しにあったとでも言うつもりなのか。たたりなんてあるもんか。たたりなんてあるもんか。
Words kept coming out of my mouth like I was chanting a spell. I wasn't speaking by my own will anymore. It was the demon who was controlling me. The demon that had been sleeping deep inside me woke up and was speaking through my mouth. The demon's hands grabbed me on by the neck. Oh no.
お前たちがサトシ君を鬼隠しにしたんだ。お前たちその先本家が、お前たちが返して、私のサトシ君を返して。
My hand slowly but surely squeezed Mion's neck. Mion put her hands onto mine. I looked at her fingers. 3 of the fingernails on her left hand looked as ugly as mine. Oh my gosh, really?
ミオ、これはどうしたの？
Tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't have to answer. She did the same scars as I did. As she atoned as well. You know why she probably did? Because after Shion was taken away, the grandmother said, you helped her. You are a part of this problem. You have to pay the price too. The way those wounds were healing looked the same as mine. So did she get those wounds around the same time I did?
シオンだけが爪を剥がされるなんて。
Oh my gosh, you voluntarily did that?
かわいそうすぎるんだもん。
Mion started sobbing. I stood there petrified, still wringing Mion's neck.
シオンがね、サトシのことを好きだって分かって、私、シオンとサトシに幸せになってほしかったんだよ。
Fair, she did try to help that along, didn't she?
だって、シオンばっかり、いつもかわいそうで、私たちは同じ双子なのに、なんでシオンばっかり、いつも差別され。
I know Mion's really, really, really good at acting. I don't think she's acting here, though. From the first episode, the first game, first chapter, Mion's always been kind of my favorite. This is definitely selling that. I really like Mion. It didn't come as a surprise to me that Mion might have also loved Satoshi-kun as I did. We've always liked the same stuff and even the same people. She was stupid enough to feel obligated towards someone like me.
私ね、バッチャにね、怒鳴って言ったんだよ。シオンとサトシをそっとしてあげてほしいって。そしたら、けじめをつけたら見逃そうっていう話になって。
And did she do that because she knew Satoshi was going to be vanished?
だからね、ちゃんとシオンが頑張ったから、もうね、二人は普通に過ごしてもよかったんだよ。なのに、サトシいなくなっちゃった。
It's also implying that Mion, like, was in love with him, which I genuinely didn't think that was the case, but maybe, like, the fact of saying that, maybe it is true. Because I thought that was supposed to be the idea, is that, like, Shion liked Satoshi, but then Mion likes Keiichi, and they're very similar to each other, but not quite the same. But, I don't know.
こんなのひどいよね。
Mion isn't smart enough to shed crocodile tears. Those tears were real. Her tears dissolved my demon's anger like how the sun melts ice.
信じて、シオン。本当にサトシがどうしていなくなってしまったのか。園崎家とかバッチャとか、本当にそういうのは何も関わってないの。バッチャは、シオンのけじめで全てを許した。
No. I think it was the Sonozakis, but he was meant to vanish well before all this happened.
だから、サトシに何かするなんて絶対にないの。ミオ、ごめん、苦しかった。
I took my hands off her neck and held her instead.
苦しくなんかないよ。シオンはもっともっと苦しかったんだよね。
I shouted at the demon in my mind. I believed in Mion. I had been convinced it was the Sonozaki family that made Satoshi-kun disappear, but Mion denied it, while shedding tears. Between her and me, her tears are more convincing than any words. So I'd believed in her. It absolutely wasn't the Sonozaki family that made him disappear. Interesting. It's really making that to me. So, do you really think that Satoshi-kun disappeared because of Orishiro-sama's curse? I don't believe in curses. And Mion didn't do it. If it wasn't the curse of the Sonozaki family, who demoned him away? I don't know. I just know it's not Mion. It's not the Sonozaki family because Mion said so. That's stupid, Shion. Are you going to ignore Satoshi-kun's voice? I know. You don't have to remind me, demon. I hear his voice. I know he's mumbling with an ambivalent expression, like he always used to do, even though he knows that help won't come. I'll help him no matter what. I'll save him if he's alive. I'll avenge him if he's dead. But Mion didn't do it. You just want to take it out on somebody, it doesn't matter who. But I'm Shion, not a demon. You're only part of me. Don't try and take control. Fetch off. Don't ever show up again. That's interesting. Maybe there is like a genetic thing about the demon, or like an aggression inside them. The demon faded away. My body went limp and I fell to the floor while holding Mion.
シオン、大丈夫？もう、大丈夫だよ。ミオン、私たちは、どうしてミオンとシオンなんだろうね。どうして、同じ一人であってはいけないんだろうね。やめなよ。私たちはもう何度もそれを自問してきたよ。でも答えなんか出ない。現実に私とあなたはミオンとシオン。それが現実。
Just how it is.
私ね、自分がミオンでもシオンでも、私たちは私たち。公平な関係でいたいのに。
That won't be allowed though.
仕方がないよ。ミオンの背中には鬼が宿ってる。闘志を継ぐ定めが宿ってる。それは仕方がない。私、嫌だ。
Yeah, I know.
鬼なんかいらない。鬼なんかいらない。私は鬼じゃない。鬼じゃない。同じ人間なのがいい。
Mion is a demon, Shion is a human. Even though we're twins, there's a difference between us. Was it impossible for humans to live with demons after all? It should be possible, because they did it before. That's the legend of Hinamizawa. humans and demons lived in harmony together. As Oishio-sama watched over them. Mion, Shion, Satoshi-kun, demons, humans, Oishio-sama's curse, the series of mysterious deaths, Satoshi-kun's disappearance. We all fell asleep while holding each other. While holding everything. Alright. Dang. Woo. Wasn't expecting that. And it's interesting that it's trying to bring up... I do believe... I still think it's not a curse. I do think it's humans. I think it is the Sonozaki family, despite what it was trying to push there. I do think Mion wasn't involved, though. That makes a lot of sense. Payment. Reconcile with a close relative. It shows fingers. That sucks. Alright, let's do these tips and we're done. Notebook, page 50. I saw Mio Takano a few times after that. At her core, she was fascinated with the bizarre. She had an insatiable curiosity that was just as strong. I have to remind myself not to take her story too seriously. Otherwise, I might start believing that Satoshi-kun disappeared because of the curse. She talks about the dark history of Hinamizawa a lot. It's all very interesting. Her theories are based on nothing but conjecture, but some of her intuition covers facts that only members of the Sonozaki family would know. She thinks that Oishio-sama's curse is a continuation of these ancient rituals. In other words, she believes the curse is performed by religious fanatics. I think it's been hijacked from religious fanatics. According to her theory, a religious cult once existed in Hinamizawa, and that the three families stemmed from it. She believes that they are operating behind the scenes in order to revive the dignity of the Onagafuchi people, which was lost during the Meiji era. Miyo-san's theories are far-reaching, and looking at them on the large scale, they end up making a lot of sense. But they can't offer an explanation for Satoshi-kun's disappearance while using them on the small one. Her theories are just too broad. Interesting. Notebook, page 64. I exchange information with Oishi every now and then. We each expect new leads from each other, but neither of us had any luck. I no longer believe the tip that Satoshi-kun might have headed to Tokyo. It was clearly bogus anyway. Although I can't befriend Oishi, he's been fair about the deal. He alone has been serious about uncovering any new information. Oishi's sources are quite reliable, so whenever I found some dubious tip, I checked with him to see if it was valid. My meetings with him have diminished in frequency since he's been assigned to new cases. Eventually, we stopped meeting entirely. Oishi stopped investigating, and I reached the limit of my sources of information. People now think Satoshi-kun's disappearance was a supernatural phenomena called demoning away. In Hinamizawa, they refer to his disappearance as him having transferred, and nobody will talk about it otherwise. I don't like the way they phrase that. It's used to erase him. Yeah. And then notebook, page 85. During the upheaval surrounding Oishio-sama's curse in 1982, I was pulled this way and that by new leads on Satoshi-kun's disappearance. Every time I found information that looked promising, I kept changing my theories. But that also became an incredible burden on me. Why'd the light change there? It wore me down plenty on its own. The fatigue was harsh, but also proved to be a very kind acceptance. Bit by bit, it soothed away the anger, the sadness, the doubt that wore me down. I'll never forget Satoshi-kun. I'll never try to forget him and move on. I constantly repeated those to myself in my head. I repeated them to keep my memories of Satoshi-kun from fading over and over. For the sake of my fun memories with Satoshi-kun, together with my fear and my sadness, I repeated them forever and ever. Alright. There we go. Okay, it's a lot to chew on. I spouted some interesting theories. If I were to summarize, I think the big breakthroughs, I think, number one, I agree with Shion. I don't think Mion knows what happened to Satoshi. I'm not sure she even knows a whole lot about the greater plan. I think that might be something that was kept from her, other than the fact that, the enemies are being targeted. I don't think she knows, the actual orchestration of how it's all happening. She might. There were some instances in the other chapters that made me think she might, but I'm not so sure anymore. I still don't think it's a curse though. I still think it's people. Although it's interesting seeing like Shion internally like having to wrestle with like an internal demon. There might be something to that. Like I said, like I'm thinking maybe there's a psychological or genetic thing going on there. I mean, with a small town in the middle of the mountains, like inbreeding is gonna be a thing, and maybe there's something to that. But I don't know. Then lastly is that idea, like I think the biggest hint that we had here, the piece of information that felt like it was being said without being said. And that was that idea that maybe the people who are being vanished are the people who have a direct connection to the person who's kind of pulling all the puppet strings, the person who's actually making all of this play out the way that they are, trying to make it happen. And Dr. Irie being possibly my biggest personal contender for what's happening right now. It's not a perfect solution. It doesn't explain why at the end he seems to off himself before the gas came in. But then again, if he's in the know about all of that, and for whatever reason he learns like, oh well, the gas is coming, like we're not going to stop that. Maybe he did it so that he didn't have to like watch other people suffer, or he didn't have to he didn't have to face it. Maybe it was like a much more like pleasant way to go, in his eyes. I'm not sure. Anyway, Dr. Irie, I'm gonna keep an eye on him. I don't think it's a rock solid theory, but I think it's interesting. It's an interesting connection, and I definitely think that not only is this orchestrated by people, but that's the idea. That in each instance, the person who was vanished was also the instigator of the murder, and then they get vanished because they don't want them accidentally getting arrested and potentially drawing like a connection, like who's one person who is involved in all of these cases. They basically are trying to prevent that from ever being able to be put together. So I do think 100% at this point, well, maybe not 100%, like 99.9% that's what's going on. And Dr. Irie is currently the top of my most suspect of individuals. But no spoilers. I'm just theory crafting here, okay? Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. I certainly did. Much longer than I was expecting, but hey, that's what happens, man. Keep an eye out on Wednesday. We got our new Awakana series starting. It's going to be really fun. I can't wait to see what you think of it. And I guess I should say it'll come out when I post it. It is the fully restored version. It will have scenes that will not be friendly for YouTube. I will cut those out, but I will talk about them. And I think I do that primarily because I want to play the game that originally got published, for good or for bad. Some games having like the full content available makes them better because they really actually embellish and enhance and like have a part to play in the story. Katawa Soja is a perfect example where the intimate scenes in that game are massive insights into the characters and personality and the relationships that are being formed there. Grisaya is a good example of where it was not such a good thing, where most of those scenes just seem to be checklisting, but I still want to see it because then I can like understand the original. So I'm doing that with Awakana as well. So yeah, that'll be fun. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope you all are excited to see these new playthroughs. I certainly am excited, and I'm looking forward to be able to share these stories with you for many, many, many weeks to come. I appreciate you all. Thank you especially to the patrons and members who support the channel directly. But the fact that you're here and still listening means that you're basically one of the best people I could ever hope to have. So thank you. And until next video, you're watching me up to see me in next. I'll see you there.